Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. Yes, I'm really gonna go there. I'm probably not going to be broadcasting very much over the next couple of weeks, if at all, only because I'm hopping about between various places, so I don't get the opportunity to do so. I'm travelling, so I respectfully ask for no inane comments asking where I am, I miss you ever, comments along those kind of lines, or sort of prompting me into broadcasting. I'll broadcast when I'm ready to, my dear, and when I'm able to. Okay, on the subject of inane comments, can we please stop? First, or even the other day I had somebody saying, second, am I among grown adults here? I ask you, the inanity of some of those comments, just a small fraction of them, but really, first, who cares if you're first, second or 75th, my dear? We're not 6 years old, are we? I hope not. I'm pressed for time today, so there won't be heavy editing or anything. I'm just going to be holding forth on Trump. So brace yourself, my dear. If it's not your cup of tea, I understand. Go sip another beverage elsewhere. Don't come complaining to me. Also, I'd like to say a quick hello to Maz. Maz, who is going through some things, I know, in your real life, my dear. You know who you are that I'm talking to. My thoughts and prayers are with you at this time. And I know how much you're going to miss your mummy, and just know that my thoughts and prayers are with you. It's also worth a quick mention before I get going that the King's Equerries engagement to Livy Harris was announced in the Times, wasn't it? The engagement is announced between Lieutenant Colonel Johnny Thompson, son of Mr. and Mrs. Alan Thompson of Morpeth, Northumberland, and Olivia Rose, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Simon Lewis, OBE of Primrose Hill, London. Which is a bit of a coincidence because I just mentioned Primrose Hill in the previous broadcast, didn't I, my dear? We're neighbours, evidently. Well, the papers also mentioned Johnny's nickname, the Hot Equerry, as he became. He was originally known in the press as the Hot Bodyguard, after my video tribute brought him to the world stage and the attention of the world. Just in case you didn't know, it was actually my moniker. Not saying that it's something I should be especially proud of, but it was me, and it was that video that brought my channel to his attention and to the attention of other members of the royal family, right to the very top, as I have told you before, but I like retelling it again and again and again to let you know that we're in very good company here on the broadcast. And I've also become friends with some of those insiders who discovered me via that broadcast. Little bit of trivia. Right, here we go. Mandy Candy. Some of these names. Mandy Candy said, "Dear River, who do you think's going to win the election and who do you want to win?" And Toby Wilmington said, "Hi River, I know the US is not your country, but as a member of what you have called the letters community," LGBTQIA+, yes, I refer to it as the letters community, my dear. You seem to love that, but that's how I think of it. "I have mixed feelings about Kamala Harris and Donald J. Trump. I'd love to know who gets your backing. And any time I hold forth on Trump or Harris, usually if it's Trump, then I'll get a few people popping up saying, 'Oh, you shouldn't be talking about America. It's none of your noz, none of your business.' Well, screw you and tough titty. I'm afraid it is very much everybody's business. Everybody in the Western world, for sure. Because, yeah, he's head of state in America, but America leads the West, and as my Aunt Georgie often says, she often says that when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. And it's so true. It affects all of us in a very visceral way, especially in this time period. So I will state my opinion if I want to. Where did I get to? Oh yeah, well, addressing Mandy Candy, you ask who do I think is going to win. I would not dream on placing any bet on winner, because one thing I've learned, first of all, one thing I've learned is that polls, or the polls that we keep saying, it's all the big weaves, isn't it, this polling business? They're always wrong. Always wrong. So I don't pay them any mind at all. What are weaves? And second, the second point is that I am most often deflated at every result that comes out. It's never really a time when there's been a joyous result that seems to go the way that I wanted it to do. Maybe once or twice. I would say when Corbyn was defeated was a good one, but that proved to be a damp squib. And I shall tell you, for those of you who hate Trump, in 2016, I never hated Trump, but I was certainly among the number who wanted Clinton to win. Not that I was well educated or even fairly well educated on any of the politics really at that time period. Didn't have much interest, but I was deflated when Trump won that election back in 2016, and I was surrounded by a lot of people with a lot of hatred for Trump, and was probably a little bit influenced by their feelings. Not too much though, because I've always been an independent thinker, but I always actually liked Hillary Clinton, and I was very deflated on the morning after. I might even have shed a tear. I don't think I got round to crying actually, but I do remember my eyes stinging a little bit, going for a walk on the heath with a friend and thinking, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But turning the page on that a few years later in 2020, I was deflated when Biden won. That was not a nice moment for me. So unlike some of you, I've been on both ends of the lollipop, and I don't actually suck on one end of any particular lollipop for eternity. I don't have any particular or special loyalty to either party, either here in the kingdom, any of our parties, or favours for the US. My big bugbear over the last few years has been Biden. It was always Biden, not the Democratic Party actually, although I do not go in for the big state of the Democratic Party. There's also things about the Republican Party that appall me. But it was always Biden. His method of withdrawal out of Afghanistan for the first thing in the first months of his leadership, which I've broached this many times in the past. If you are not appalled by that withdrawal, or you blame Trump for initiating it in the last days of his administration, then you are quite simply ignorant of the total calamity that it has resulted in. I said this 3 years ago, and I'm being backed up by those utterly in the know now. Really in the know, as I shall tell you. Pure incompetence. Pure incompetence. And very likely a large contributing factor to the emboldenment and the adventurousness of Putin, to give but one example. He sensed a weak leader when that happened. In fact, I would say that Biden is no leader at all. And on a more personal level, as I've also told you before, on top of the censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop debacle, that story, which was withheld from the world during the electioneering process, as well as that, the footage of Biden sniffing the hair and touching young girls and helping himself to them, time and time again, minute after minute, which I've shown for you before, made me sick. But he's gone. So we have Kamala. I like Kamala. Yes, I'm aware of the nauseating moments. Yes, I'm aware of the reasons why people don't like her, and I can totally understand why. But I also have an intuition that should be rather good fun on a night out here or there for a little bit of a kiki. And my overall impression of her is someone who is actually rather likeable, as Trump can also be endearing in some ways. But he's a man's man, you see. He wouldn't have that much interest in hanging out with someone like me. Although I do believe, unlike others, that he would show me the time of day and be respectful and curious and interested. But I've got nothing particularly on a personal level against Kamala. However, I think it is absolutely desperate to begin accusing Trump of being a Nazi, as she and the party have been doing lately. Maybe he is many things, and I'm sure people are going to hurl in the comment section, a convicted felon, an orange man, bad man, orange man, Yawnsville, Yawnsville, Yawnsville. Come out with something original, my dear. Yeah, we all know that. But Adolf Hitler is a bit of a stretch. The majority of my own friendship circle, perhaps, I don't know, maybe things have changed a little bit over the years, but I would say the majority of them certainly lean left, both here and abroad. And so I do feel that I understand Team Kamala. I have love for Team Kamala and Team Trump. I should say Team Harris and Team Trump, shouldn't I? But for some reason, she's Kamala rather than a Harris. Just as Boris Johnson is a Boris rather than a Johnson, do you understand? You know, I know your criticisms about Trump, and I can see what you can see, but this is the difference, and this is the quiz, because unfortunately, although I can see that, there are some who cannot see what we see and understand, or have come to understand about Trump. They just cannot see it. It is not visible to them. And that is their problem. They think that anyone even considering voting Trump to be absurd and to be stupid and bigoted. Some of them are point blank, you know, it's a binary thing. You like Trump or you are sympathetic towards some of his ideas, then you are evil. Then you are evil. These people, you all know those types. Well, it is actually their lack of sophistication and intelligence that is responsible for this. Elon Musk, for example, might not be everyone's taste. He might not be everybody's cup of tea, and he's not mine. But as the world's richest person and the guy who was responsible for landing Starship just the other week, wasn't it? Not personally, you understand, but you know. He led that, an astonishing feat of engineering, that was. Many things you could call him, but he ain't stupid, and he supports Trump. And I'll tell you, my dears, and I'll tell you better, you would be surprised, if you don't move in certain circles, which I'm sure some of you do, but you would be surprised the amount of people in sophisticated, intelligent, sober circles and tipsy circles who get Trump and have come to get Trump over the years. It is not just rabble, it is not just rednecks, although there are a few of them, I understand. You know, there's good and rotten fruit in every bowl, isn't there? And that goes for Tory, Labour, Republic, Dem, whatever it is, my dear. There really is good and rotten in every bowl. But not everybody who is going to vote for Trump is stupid. Far from it. In fact, stupid people are the ones who can't understand why someone would vote for Trump, or can't understand why someone wouldn't and would vote for Kamala, because there are nuances to each quiz. That's why I wouldn't disparage anyone for voting for either of them, for any or. Because so much of it comes down to our own life experiences and the way that we filter enactments around the world. Colonel Richard Kemp, CBE, is not stupid. He is a retired military commander, and he's very highly respected, and he knows Afghanistan intimately, better than any single one of us. Actually, I take that back. I won't speak for all of you, my dears, because I actually have so many of you who are from military families, who have been in the military or armed forces. So I'm very well aware that there might be a few of you out there equally as well acquainted. But Colonel Richard Kemp took part in an interview on the Trigonometry channel, which I know some of you will know of. I highly recommend it. Absolutely riveting. Really, really great interview. Quite illuminating. Anybody doubting what I have been criticising about Biden for the past 3 years, I direct you to that Trigonometry interview. You might learn a few things. It provides a commentary on the devastation that the Biden administration have caused, with repercussions that are being felt now and interminably. It is really sad. Colonel Richard Kemp is not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Trump supporter. But he recognises what I have always recognised. For example, Toby Wilmington, going back to your comment and your reference to the letters community and how the vote will affect the letters community. Well, that is one of many aspects that folk ask about and compare party to party, naturally, as they would do. The letters community, immigration, abortion, all of these hot topics and hot issues. And all of these issues are indeed so very important, so I can understand the passions behind them. But as Colonel Richard makes abundantly clear, we are facing bigger issues at this moment in time. Much bigger issues, yes, than even the letters community or the abortion question, immigration, all crucially important issues. But we are facing the biggies at the moment, my dear. And because we've had peacetime for so many decades here, which is just a whisker, a wrinkle in time, really, people in the West don't realise how hard fought and won for that peace was. Did I say that correctly? Getting tongue-tied, my dear. But people don't understand the West and beyond, and our way of life, our freedom, is in grave danger. And the biggest danger, the root of all this, is actually Iran. It's Iran, or more specifically, it's Tehran, and the revolutionary regime in Tehran. And by the way, Iranians make up quite a considerable proportion of my friendship group. Fantastic people, lovely people, progressive people, and particularly the youth of Iran are sick of the regime in Tehran. They're not behind it, they don't support it, they're living under it. A lot of them want modernization. But this war in the Middle East, what it really boils down to is a war between Jerusalem and Tehran. And as Colonel Richard Kemp says, Iran, or Tehran more specifically, is the head of the octopus, the source of the problem. But that's a good analogy. The head of the octopus. 7 arms it has, or 7 fronts that Israel is fighting against. And even if it lops off the arms of Hamas and Hezbollah, then that doesn't deal with the octopus as a whole, and the head of the octopus is Tehran. And just as Douglas Murray said this week in an interview, whether or not he's to your liking, he's another person that you can't claim is stupid in all sensibility. He said that Trump had Iran pleading for sanctions to be lifted at the end of the Trump administration. Iran was pleading for those sanctions to be lifted. And as soon as Biden gave in, he gave Iran exactly what they wanted and a whole lot of wonga besides. Money, 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 money. Makes the world go round, and certainly put Tehran into a spin of funds poured into Iran, emboldening them, enabling them. Now we're at a point where they're almost nuclearized. Enabled them to fund their terror proxies, such as Lebanon and Gaza and even Yemen. Douglas Murray also said that Trump had been clever in never stating what he would do. He had a clever strategy, says Douglas Murray. He said that it's not a wise idea to give it all away when dealing with a guy like Putin or with Hamas. This is because Trump, despite all of his many failings on a personal level and sometimes on a professional level, I know people who have expressed the fact that he could be an absolute nightmare to deal with. An absolute nightmare. But Trump knows the art of the deal. His whole life is a series of deals, and ultimately he is successful. And at this stage of the world being in such great peril, do you really think that Kamala Harris is capable of doing such deals and dealing on the world stage with characters such as Putin, countries like China and North Korea, etc., etc., etc.? Trump kept peace throughout his entire administration. I'm not saying it was a peaceful time. I'm not saying that I like or approve of his vernacular and the infantile manner of his Twitter spats and all this kind of flora. I'm not one for that style at all. I'll never stand behind it. I'll never think that it's at all presidential, or what should be presidential. That's America's affair. But he kept peace on the big things he did so well. Peace is only achieved with an efficient deterrent. Any military man will tell you that. Or military woman. Trump deterred those who were adventurous. He kept them in their place, and he also understood the atmosphere of mutual respect that is eventually required, not always in the case of Kim Jong-un with his little rocket man spats, but ultimately they ended up with a very good working relationship and an understanding and some respect, and he was kept in his place. But more importantly, it was peaceful. And there was none of this, people said, oh, he's going to be a warmonger, the world is going to be in great danger. No, he strikes me very much as a man who wants peace on the world stage. And he achieved it. It is only in the last few years of this Biden administration that we've been on the brink of World War fucking III. And yet you're going to tell me that that's a success in some kind of way? I ask you. I also don't believe many of Trump's claims that he makes, his wild exaggerations. I'm not some sucker. He's not going to pee on my leg with that mushroom and tell me that it's raining. For one thing, my gut feeling is that Stormy Daniels was telling the truth. So sue me. I'm just letting you know. I don't worship at the altar of Trump or Biden or Harris or King Charles. Anybody's altar. Thank you very much. Other than my own divine master mistress. I'm no sucker. And those dreadful COVID press conferences that he used to give, the cringe factor of them, and the Kraken that's coming with Sidney Powell and Linwood and Jenna and Rudy and the whole shebang. Embarrassing. A little bit endearing at times, I must confess, for my own taste, but ultimately rather cringe. But this is not a Miss World Beauty Queen pageant. This is a vote for the leader of the Western world. And that is why I stated earlier, for those who say that I might not have any right or place to speak. As a world citizen, I have every right to share my opinion. We are allied with the states. We share intelligence. We have a close special relationship, as it's termed. So I have every right to an opinion. And even if it weren't for those things, I would have any right to an opinion on Krakatoa or... That's not a country, is it? That was a volcano. Korea, India, Russia, or Outer Mongolia, wherever it is, I can hold forth on whatever I want, as can you. Because at this moment in time we have freedom, but we might not have it for much longer. We might be silenced, just like the people of Iran at the moment, who weren't even allowed to share anything on their social media platforms about what went on over the last few weeks. What I'm saying is that no, I do not believe everything that comes out of his mouth and his wild exaggerations, but I do believe that there would have been no war over the last few years if he'd remained in power. And I also believe that he will sort it if he gets elected back into power, which is a big if, but that is my gut instinct. And I think actually that if he does get back in, then the world will be shocked with how effective he is at resolving some of these huge issues and untying some of these disastrous, calamitous knots. Because if he is an expert at anything at all, then it is the art of the deal. And there is an art to it that shouldn't be underestimated just because he has a vernacular or a talking style that people, inverted snobs, look down upon, or a locker room style that people object to because of their sensitivities. He actually taught me a word the other day. What was it? I took a screenshot of it. There we are. contiguous, I think that's how you pronounce it, yeah, contiguous, sharing a common border or touching. I'm revealing my own ignorance and stupidity there, my dear, but I admit to you when I haven't heard a word before. Contiguous he used. I googled it immediately, so now we know what that means. I can't remember the context of it, but he does know a few words. I'm actually a little bit sad that it is not Biden that is facing Trump, because I wanted to see Biden thrashed. I wanted Trump to have that chance to relish that moment, and I think Trump would have preferred it as well. It's not going to be the same satisfaction with Kamala, if Trump wins, that is. And I also think that she's got some temerity to suggest that Trump is mentally unstable or whatever it is she's been saying. Really? You're going to put that comparison out there when you've been telling us that Biden is fully compos mentis for the last few years, and he's away with the fairies as he is? Please, don't pee on my leg. Kamala Harris. Well, I actually thought that Trump was in for a better chance after the assassination attempt. There was some sort of surge in feeling of popularity towards him, but that might just been press generated. And then, when Kamala announced there was a lot of positivity towards her, and she was capturing the attention and imagination of the young and the generations coming through, of course, a lot of wokies. But now I'm not even hedging a bet. I'm not even hedging a bet, my dear. I'm certainly not saying that Trump's got it in the bag, you know, and even if I did say that, I barely get it right, and I'm the first to admit it. But Colonel Richard Kemp makes it very clear on trigonometry. He says, as far as Israel and the Sunni countries are concerned in the Middle East, a Trump victory would be the preferred outcome. As far as Iran is concerned, I think they'd probably prefer to see Harris. It just about says it all. And he speaks in much greater detail and with much more knowledge than me about the catastrophe in Afghanistan, which is actually a word that I used for it in this broadcast many times over the years here. A calamity and a catastrophe. Well, the Colonel's using my words to describe it in exactly the same way. See how ahead of the curve I am, my jeers. Folks said that I don't know what I'm talking about back then. Well, Colonel Kemp does, and research his career if you don't believe me. He says that Biden has done some very good things. Like me, he's fair-minded and can see the good and rotten in most folk. He says that especially lately, the Biden administration, has done some good things for Israel. But overall, he says, his action in relation to Israel has been catastrophic. And worse than that, he actually accuses Biden of treachery against Israel and against the United States. And Israel is one of the US's closest allies, and certainly the closest in the Middle East. He says that it's on such a scale, this treachery, that if it were possible, he should be court-martialed. Even though that's not really possible, because you can't court-martial civilian. As Commander-in-Chief, he should be court-martialed. It is that dramatic. Can't be overstated. And then there is the matter of the Abraham Accords, which are conveniently overlooked by all those on the left or the left-wing media. All the good work that Trump did in relation to the Abraham Accords, he should have been up for a Nobel Peace Prize for that. I mean, nobody thought that it could be done. Nobody, by any president. But it's the art of the deal, isn't it? It's deal making. He achieved it with great aplomb, and he got absolutely no credit for it. And it's one of those things, you know, he pipes up and shouts from the rafters about this, that and the fourth, and loads of stuff that often is just rather there for dramatic effect. But he rarely pipes up about the Abraham Accords, one of his hugest achievements. Well, that was broken up by the Biden administration. Do you understand why it leaves a bit of a bitter taste in the mouths of the sophisticate? I would not rush with great enthusiasm to vote for any of the leaders here in the kingdom or the states or beyond. I'll always pine for Margaret Thatcher, my dear. She's the only one that I would rush for with grand enthusiasm. But if push came to shove, I would put concerns of a personal nature and the smaller things, important as they are, further towards the back of the queue, and I would prioritise world peace, because that is where we are at this moment in time, my dear, where it is so important, and which ironically is what those Miss World pageant queen contestants that we spoke about declare as their greatest wish, isn't it? World peace. Well, I adore my Republican fruits, my Democrat fruits, my independent fruits, fruits of all kind, my dear. I'll take a bite. All fruity, and we all jive very well together here on the broadcast, don't we, my dear? So don't think that I'm disparaging anyone at all. I hope I made it very clear that I wish you the best of luck, whoever you vote for, because you're all doing it with the best intentions in mind, aren't you, my dear? I hope whoever wins restores some peace to this broken world. It's broken. I feel it, you feel it. And without wanting to be pessimistic, many of us, and I've spoken with friends about this, from all places, feel a bleakness in the wake of the COVID era and all of the years that have come after that. I was going to say in the wake of Black Lives Matter and all that bullshit, and all the wokey stuff that's been going on since then. And I will say it. Gets everyone down, doesn't it? Bleak. Bleak outlook. But we must channel the royal spirit, and we must attempt to look with some optimism. And perhaps that's what Mr. Trump might provide. Hopefully with a bit more maturity than we saw in his first administration, if he were to get another chance. Because I'm certainly not praising him as some sort of god or deity, as some of those crazier fruits in the basket might do. Do you understand? I certainly don't see him as the second coming, or God's divine intervention. No, I don't, but each to their own. Bleak midwinter also approaches, doesn't it, my dear? Here in the kingdom, the clock went back a couple of days ago, which I didn't even realise, because it happens automatically now on all our phones and everything. We don't have to wind them back anymore. But the clocks have gone back an hour, so it's darker here now. The nights are drawing in, and it's going to be 2025 in just a couple of short months, isn't it, my dear? It'll get nice and twinkly before then, as we lead up to Christmas. Everything changes. The seasons turn. That's the only thing we know for sure, isn't it, my dear? And things are going to be changing around here a little bit as well, in the not too distant. As I said, I'm going to be on my travels, but I will be popping back in for another broadcast as soon as I am able to, my dear, so I look forward to seeing you then. I would love to know your thoughts, but please remain civil, playful, and not impudent. And if I delighted you or infuriated you, my tip jar is in the description box, and I thank you most sincerely. Stay naughty and a little bit haughty. Toodle pip.